Welcome, listeners and viewers, to the long-awaited Season 2 of Half Haunted. I am your host, Candi, and I'm here with my fabulous co-host, Raji. This season is about urban legends, lore, cemeteries, famous haunted places, and serial killers. Welcome to Season 2. This is part of the famous haunted house part of the season. This is going to be Mason House Inn in Iowa. I actually got the privilege of staying at this house overnight, so we'll get into it. I'm here with my co-host, Raji. Hello, Raji.
Hello, Candi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Welcome
I'm
to
good.
Season 2. And at the end of July, I got the privilege of going to this psychic retreat ghost hunt in Iowa with the Traveler's Moon, to where I went with them previously to Ashmore Estates in April. I don't know if you were familiar with the other podcast that we did. So I went with them to the Mason House Inn. Anyway, let me do a little bit of background on this place. Initially known as the Ashland House, the Mason House Inn was constructed by Mormon craftsmen traveling west from Nauvoo, Illinois, to cater to Mormons, steamboat passengers, and travelers journeying up the Des Moines River. The name was changed to the Phoenix Hotel in 1857, and after being in the Mason family for nearly a century, it became known as the Mason House Inn. The inn had a bar in the southwest room for a significant period, serving as a bar for close to a century. The furnishings were sold off about 10 years ago under the ownership of a local minister. Currently, it's a bed and breakfast with 9 rooms, each equipped with its own private bath, and interestingly, the modern plumbing was only installed in the late 1990s. So
Ew.
before that, they had to go to the privy in the backyard. So I was like, okay.
Ew.
Yeah, they told us that when we were there. We're like,
My
what?
bladder would not hold. Mm-hmm.
Imagine that having to go in like snow and there's
Ugh. I understand the times, but yes.
yeah. Built by Mormon craftsmen in 1846, the Mason House had various incarnations, including serving as a underground railroad stop, a holding hospital for Civil War soldiers waiting for transportation, and in 1913, a tuberculosis sanitarium. Over the years, it has been a final resting place for many sick and wounded individuals, as well as for former owners and residents. Numerous deaths have occurred within the walls of the inn, including Lewis Mason dying of diphtheria
Oh,
in 1868, along with several of his patients, Mary Mason Clark passing away from a heart attack in 1911, Dr. Gray succumbing to an illness during the boarding house years in the early 20th century, and Fannie Mason Kurtz dying in the dining room in 1951. According to owners, there are at least 5 spirits that reside in the inn, with countless more reported sightings. 3 of the owners have passed away in the inn. 1 guest was murdered. It served as a hospital in the Civil War, and again from 1920 to 1940 by a doctor who treated patients in the inn. The exact number of casualties from the Civil War remains unknown. Yeah, with a history littered with tragedy and paranormal activity, the Mason House remains a destination for thrill seekers and history enthusiasts like myself. I went in there, my first thought, you'll see the picture.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, this looks familiar. I was like, oh, wait a minute, this looks like the Amityville house from the front. And I'm like, that's ominous. You know what I mean? I'm like,
Yeah.
interesting. But you turn around, and there's the river, and there's this bridge, like this bridge you can walk across, and it's kind of nice. I went on psychic intuitive retreat ghost hunt with a group of other like-minded individuals. Very fun group of people. I go in there. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to meet new people, do stuff. It's the same group that I went to Ashmore Estates with,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm kind of familiar with some of the people. They put me in room 7. So, like, okay, I walk upstairs, put my stuff in room 7.
Mm-hmm.
I was in like the twin bed, and there was like 2 beds in there. There's a big bed, like a queen bed, and then a twin bed. So I was like, I'm by myself. And there was another lady named April that wasn't there yet, so I just took the twin bed. Anyway, I put my stuff down. I'm like, that's kind of weird. I kind of felt like someone was in the room with me, but there was nobody in there. But think anything of it. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I shrugged it off, and I'll show the picture but you'll see my bed, and there's a door, and that's the bathroom. And I was setting my stuff down, and I could sworn that someone was like peeking out of the door as I was setting my stuff down. And anyway, I just shrugged it off, and then I went back downstairs, and then introduced myself to everybody, and
Yeah.
we started the retreat. Whatever, I let it go, right? And so the thing went on, and we did our stuff, and it was interesting. I'll explain like the spirits of the house. The spirits of the Mason house, as we were told, there's a spirit named George, and it's a spirit of a young boy that the guests called George. His apparition has been seen on the landing. He likes to play tricks on the guests and is believed to move things around the house, knock on doors, poke and tug at guests' clothing. One instance involved a guest lying in bed asleep in room 5. He was awoken and tugged on his pajamas, assuming that it was his wife asking him to turn over.
Mm-hmm.
However, when he tried to move his arm, it would not budge. When he woke up, he realized it wasn't his wife, and saw something tugging on his pajamas, but he couldn't even see. So it was just something tugging, and then nothing was there. So it was a
Mm-hmm.
strange incident. I'm like, oh, okay, we're hearing this stuff, and I'm like, all right, I could see it's old place, 1946, so like a lot of history,
Right.
Mary Mason Clark is an old lady on the 3rd floor, south bedroom, and it's currently used for storage. We were not allowed to go up there, as part of it was the owner's private area. They lived there
Got.
too, so that was the part we weren't allowed to go in. Anyway, her apparition has been seen in a white nightgown standing in the doorway of the north bedroom on the 3rd floor. She was visible for a moment before disappearing. Guests have been reported hearing footsteps on the 3rd floor, where Mary Mason Clark had her sewing room. She only allows former owner Joy Hanson, a fellow seamstress, to enter that room, so it's kept locked. Guests staying in the room 5, which is right below it,
Mm-hmm.
have mentioned hearing thumping sounds coming from the empty room above them, resembling someone dropping something or stomping on the floor. Another guest complained about a constant squeaking sound from above, resembling like a rocking chair, back and forth. So that's kind of weird. And then a Mr. McDermott, a retired minister who bought
Mm-hmm.
the inn in 1889, saw the ghost of Mary Mason Clark on the 3rd floor. He had his office in that south bedroom and would often see her sitting in the chair by the window. She expressed unhappiness with the renovations being done in the house. So when we were there, obviously we couldn't go to the 3rd floor, but the owners expressed that they had some weird stuff happen to them too.
Mm-hmm.
Like they couldn't get in. They can only get in if they asked her. They knocked, say, "Hey, can we get in there for a minute?" It's really weird. Like they would,
Oh.
yeah. There's like 3rd floor, 2nd floor. All the
Yeah.
rooms that we were allowed in were on the 2nd floor. All I gotta say, it was a very
Ooh.
historic, older building with a lot of history. It was kind of neat at first.
Yeah.
Historic, neat at first, and then
Yeah.
there's Mr. Knapp, Knapp. There's
Mm-hmm.
a newspaper clipping detailing a murder that took place in the inn. And Mr. Knapp was stabbed in the heart and died in one of the rooms. He was trying to get into the bed that was already occupied. He had been visiting the tavern and was confused about which room he was in. The man in the bed, believing he was being robbed, took a saber from his walking stick and stabbed Mr. Knapp in the heart. Several
Oh.
guests sensitive to the spirit world have sensed violence in the rooms, with a heavy presence leading many to believe this is where. So this word gets good. So anyway, several guests sensitive to the spirit world have had sensed violence in room 7, have experienced heavy presence leading to believe this is where Mr. Knapp was murdered. Footsteps are often heard in the room where it appears empty at times, and it looks as if someone is trying to lie in bed. Could it be Mr. Knapp still trying to retire for the night? Really quick, guess who slept in room 7?
You.
Bingo. Anyway, just remember that. Remember that. I'll tell
Okay.
you what
Okay.
happened.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Fannie Mason Kurtz. The last Mason to own the house was Fannie Mason Kurtz, died in the dining room by the fireplace in 1951. Another sensitive guest felt her spirit in the staring at her in the fireplace. It turned out that Fannie Mason Kurtz did die in a rocking chair next to the fireplace when she was 84, and nobody found her body until 3 days later.
Ew.
And I kind of sensed something happened in this corner over there.
Yeah.
I didn't know what had happened, but that's apparently what happened. And
Okay.
then there's an old man, the ghost of an old gaunt man with white hair has been seen on the second floor. He often appears in mirrors, disappearing when one turns around. His head is the most prominent feature. The rest of his body often appears as a column of fog. In one instance in room 8, the owner's daughter saw the head of an old man floating across the room in the dead of the night.
Mm-hmm.
So that room 8 is weird. Harold, which I sent you a picture.
The drawing.
Harold's the main guy that looks with the beard. Main dude, that's
Okay.
Harold. Harold is a Civil War soldier gatekeeper, a salty Civil War soldier who was injured in a border skirmish and died from gangrene, is considered the resident alpha male. Yeah.
Oh.
So, my experiences with all those ghost people I described, right? I was like, no fucking way, right? Anyway, she guessed she thought mine was a cross. My brother like cross. He's special needs, like cross. Anyway, I guessed her shit was an inhaler, the color, the number. Like, this is cool. So we learned how to do that, right? We did the tarot cards, learned how to do that. I got that. So we get to the good part, right? We
Yeah.
go up and we're doing these things. I'm recording with my little recorder here, this thingy here. I got one of those, and it follows you
Yeah.
around. Got one of these. I'm like, okay. I'm going up and I'm like, I'm sitting here and I'm going to room 8 and I'm like, I'm sitting down and there's this, I go in room 8 because I'm in 7 at the end of the hallway. Room 8's around the corner and I'm like, I go in there and I'm sitting down and this lady and her boyfriend, husband, I don't know. I guess, I don't know if I'm describing this right. And if I'm not describing this right, I'm so sorry I forget her name. And I'm not trying to judge or anything. Oh my God, I hope I don't get in trouble for this. But she had these gnomes or with her stuffed animals. I don't know what they were. There was a term that she used. And they were in a corner on their bed. They're like stuffed animals. She named them and I sat on the chair. And I'm like, we're trying to like be quiet. We're trying to like sense stuff. I kept hearing these things whisper, like, so.
The little tchotchke stuffed animal gnome thingies.
Yeah, and they were whispering, and I'm like, I know I'm not high. I'm like, I know I have not been drinking. It was me, the lady I was booked, roomie with, April.
Yeah.
She's real nice. And when the owner came in, she was real cool too. I forget her. And I'm over here closest to these things, and they're all gathered in the corner, and I'm like, these fucking things are not. And you hear this, and I'm like, I'm not going crazy. I'm not going crazy. I forget the name, what she called them, stuffed animals, but they're not. They look like
Yeah.
dinosaurs. So I don't remember what they're. And then you're giggling, and then footsteps, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right. I felt totally uncomfortable. I'm like, I'm hearing some shit over here. And I know, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going for. I'm like, okay, I'm out. So I went outside, and then I'm like, okay. Then they had all the lights off. They were doing some stuff, and then they had this in the hallway, voice box thingy where it talks out loud. You could talk this stuff.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
so let me tell you what had happened. What happened was,
I'm ready.
so they were truly memorable. I attended the psychic retreat. I told you I was assigned to room 7. I think it's called the Red Rose. I had that weird sense that someone was in the bathroom there,
Mm-hmm.
You could, and I'll show the audience, the viewers, the room. The way the bed is, you walk in the door, my twin bed is right there by the door, so the head of the bed is there literally by the door. At the end of the bed is the bathroom door, and then there's the big bed to the I thought someone kept staring at me. They started with the opening drum circle outside. It was peaceful and intriguing.
Oh,
We got
wow.
into various activities, learned how to use a pendulum. How do you say a psychometry?
Mm-hmm.
About a pendulum, a yes or no math. I was taught how to use it. It was nice to have like-minded people there. I
Yeah.
wasn't like shunned or anything like that. It was really nice to meet new people. I was pretty amazed how they moved with my energy and how they were welcoming and stuff. We did this exercise where we put a personal item in an envelope and we had to kind of like write down what we thought was in it. We didn't know what was in each other's envelopes because we
Okay.
put it in before. So I had no idea what was in my envelope. Sure as shit. I was like, I grab it and I'm like, this fucking feels like a fucking inhaler. And I'm like, no way. I'm like, it's in an envelope. And I'm like, this is an inhaler. And I think it was an inhaler. I said, it had a number associated with it and some colors, and I was describing it. I said, I think it had 240 puffs to go, and I was like this. I was like, all right, and I'm like, and then I had a picture of my deceased foster brother that we had, Joe, that passed away. I told you about him a long time ago. So the other lady that had my picture, I had hers. We didn't know it. We had each other's.
Okay.
Get this. We had the same birthday too, 9/13.
Okay.
What it was it? It was a voice box, and then I'm like, oh, let me try this again. I'll go into because when you get into room 8, there's like a little hallway. You can sit there, and then there's stairs right behind it.
Yeah.
I just had a really uncomfortable feeling there. You'll see in the video. I sat down. Nope, and I got right back up.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, go in the hallway, and then we went into my room, sitting here, and they were doing the box, and there nothing's really happening, right? And then the thing
Right.
said, "Get out!" And me and Becky, the twin birthday, the lady, we're friends with all of them now. I said, "Did that thing say get out?" I'm like, "Oh my god, we need to get out!" And then the other lady's like, "I don't think that's what it said." And I'm like, "Oh my god!" So we're like, "What?"
That's what you
But
heard. It's time to go.
yeah, and then they were asking stuff, and I'm like, "Okay, that was the part was nice." Wandering around, I went in room. I think it was room 5, some room I went into. I can't remember which one it was, but it had like a big, huge room over there. I don't know, but had some chains. I don't know what it was, but it was kind of weird.
Uh-huh.
And a person died in there. Not like the bedpost was original, but the bed wasn't. I said somebody died in here. I didn't know that. And I
Yeah.
walk over to this other section, and it's a mirror with like vanity thing. And I put
Mm.
my hand on that, and I had a vision of a lady like Marsha combing her hair.
Oh, really?
Legit, like combing her hair. We had to write all this stuff down on this paper, right? Oh, that's stupid. I'm thinking to myself, this isn't going to work. Writing down, this I'm probably not right, you know what I mean? And so I felt sadness, heard whispers and footsteps. It was just weird. I'm like thinking,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not hearing this shit. I'm going crazy, you know what I mean? Trying to like, oh, it's somebody else. There's multiple people here. Could be just
Mm-hmm.
we went downstairs and they're like, what did y'all feel? Blah, blah, blah. Well, I was right. There was a lady that lived in there and she actually used that and brushed her hair and she died. Somehow that was her space. And there's actually people that have actually seen her. People that have wrote, there's journals that you could buy, guests that have had ghostly encounters that have written in journals.
Oh, okay.
And that's one of the main things that people have seen was a lady combing her hair. So we all went downstairs. It was getting towards like the end of the night. We all went downstairs to the like dining room area. Anyway, they did a thing called the Estes method.
Mm-hmm.
So Chris and Kelly are a paranormal team, they're the Traveler's Moon. Chris was blindfolded and had earplugs or couldn't see or hear. And then Kelly asks some questions and then he repeats what he hears from the ghost. I guess that's how the Estes method is.
Okay.
So I'm sitting here and Chris was like, he would be the next one next to me. He wasn't like right next to me, but he was like right there, right? And we're all talking. He can't hear any of us, but Kelly's asking him questions and I'm like recording him. And Kelly heard a noise and she goes, did anybody hear that? And I'm like, no. And then when I got back to the house after I came back, I listened to my recording and you could hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to post up because you could hear,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't any of us, but you could hear someone say, or something to that effect. You could hear a
Mm-hmm.
different person say something. And it was responding to what Chris was saying. It was wild. We all decided to go to bed that night, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not afraid of much when it comes to paranormal.
Yeah.
I get in bed, and everybody's in bed, literally. We're all asleep. I'm saying my prayers,
Mm-hmm.
and I had my phone table at the end of my bed,
Mm-hmm.
and I left my phone on record, and I'm sleeping, trying to sleep. I can't sleep. All of a sudden, I can hear arguing outside of the door in the hallway. You can't hear exactly what they're saying. You know, some people are, it's like they're
Yeah.
arguing, but you can't hear them. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, I mean, it's like right outside the door, but you can't hear them. And I'm like, oh god. That's one of the main things that people have heard is arguing. And then I'm like, oh my god. And then you hear footsteps. And it's a wooden floor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my god. It's just weird. You hear like walking around in the morning. I just couldn't sleep. Like I was tossing and turning, and I'm like, I don't dare go to the bathroom because that's where the dude's he hangs out in the bathroom. I'm like, no. I just felt someone right there the whole entire night. And in the morning, what got me in the morning, Raj, was everybody's. This is like 6 in the morning. Everybody's
You
asleep.
have not been asleep.
Now been asleep. Well, I might have like dozed off, but it's
Yeah.
not like a sleep. 6 in the fucking morning, Raji. All of a sudden, I heard a lady yell, and I don't know what she said, but you know it's a woman.
You hear?
And
Mm-hmm.
yelling like that. I woke the hell up. I said, that's it. I'm out. The other lady was sleeping. My friend April sleeping. Grabbed my shit. Everyone's dead asleep. Get me out of the house. Grab my stuff. I don't care if he was in the bathroom watching me take a crap. I'm out.
Yeah.
Mom was like, "Oh, you're home early." I said, "Yep, I'm
I'm
home
done.
early. I couldn't." "Oh, they bothered you?" I told them not to. Well, yeah. I heard arguing before I went to bed. I heard someone
Yes.
screaming at the door. What?
Yeah.
I didn't hear nothing. Well, I did, and I heard footsteps too. But, I was like, I gotta
No.
go back, but I'm gonna go back.
Yeah.
But I was just like, this is crazy. I heard voices, footsteps, a woman's distressed voice in the hallway. I was just like, I just made it as my car. I'm like, oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't know if you could go there, Raja. You'd probably be like, what the fuck? I mean,
You already know the faces I make. So yeah. But no one heard these sounds but you.
exactly, because everyone was asleep. Everyone's already been there before.
No.
They've been there multiple times, and these people were like, these are my friends. And
It
I'm
was
like,
like gang initiation. Let's scare
I
her.
was like, no, but the lady, no, in all honesty, my friend April, she's not my friend, right? She
Yeah.
goes, I have her own video. She said, now Harold, she talked to the ghost. Now Harold, this is my friend Candi. She really
Yes.
doesn't like being woken up at night. You're more than
No.
welcome to mess with me, but please don't mess with her. Because I
Yeah.
guess he's known to do that. And I was like, what? I guess the guy likes to get in your face. Like you be sleeping, you wake up and he's right there. And I was like, the whole night,
Mm-mm.
I was like, oh
Mm-mm.
my god, have I sex like this? And I was like, oh Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
But you walk in there and history, you can tell. I mean, it's crazy. But it's only like an hour from here. And the
Oh, what?
people that own it are really nice. And the river's right there. No fish.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows everybody. You could stay in a caboose car outside of it.
Ooh,
Yeah,
really?
it's pretty neat.
That would be
Yeah,
cool.
I mean, really nice. So, and then in 2006, the Today Show dubbed it the bed and breakfast of one of the most haunted lodgings in America. It's supposed to be inhabited by 20 spirits. And that's probably one of the most haunted places I've been in besides Ashmore Estates. I mean, it's pretty haunted.
Yeah.
I had a good time. I would go back, but like I would bring somebody with me. Like I wouldn't go by myself.
Have your chicken and dice and crosses and holy water.
These people have been there multiple times. I'm like, sweet Jesus. But it was great. I enjoyed it. I would recommend people check it out. There's an app you can go on. It's a haunted app you can download and it takes you to places you can visit. And it's on the Iowa Loop of haunted places. And it's only like an hour from my house.
Very good.
Hour and 10, so it's not bad.
Right on.
As always, thank you to my listeners and viewers, and a very special thank you to the Mason House Inn and the Traveler's Moon. And now for the evidence from the Mason House. You'll hear the Estes method, some unknown sounds, some talking, and a possible hello. It's best to use your headphones, so sit back and enjoy and let me know what you think.
Curtis, I honestly don't know a ton about you.
How old are you, Harold? Curtis?
Was that one of us that just went,